That's my Minotaur noise, my impersonation of the noise a Minotaur might make. It's not a major tour, this one's just a minor tour. Minotaur, I hardly know whore. I hardly know her. Alright, well the major minor one was quite funny, but the other ones could use some work. Do you know what's a good shape? This shape. That's a good shape. It can be many. It could be a hammer. Thor's hammer. It could be Mjolnir. Mjolnir, and it can have like a picture of a lightning bolt on it. It could be a axe, can it? Oh, it could be a skull. You can have a skull in that kind of shape. It could be a weirdly shaped penis. Oh, with eyes, and this is a goatee, and it's got a nose and a mouth with a penis going into it. Coming out the other end. But it also works for, like, for instance. Oh, that's a bit awkward, isn't it? It's the pages haven't. It's where the pages are sort of, because the pages are all like they're all made of separate bits of paper sort of stuck together, rather than one long sheet that's all folded up. And these pages are all like this, and then when they fold together, they like go. They go. And so there's a bit of a ridge here, which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. It's whatever. It could be like a bull's head with the. Also, it could be a baboon's head. You put the nostrils down here, and the angry baboon, if you give it hair and ears and shit. I haven't left as much space as I'd planned to. We are good at fucking everything up, aren't we? But you can colour that in with a pen that's run out. I've got 800 of these highlighters, and all the ones on my desk have run out. I've got some on my desk, I've got some above my desk, I've got some in a drawer next to my desk. Let's use a giant one. I meant to make a video purely using this giant fucking highlighter. It smells like berries. It does. I can smell the berries from here. My head's fucking not even a foot away from it. Of course I can smell the berries from here. Fucking dingus. It's comically big, isn't it? Although I think, like, if you hold it up to the light, I don't know if that will show on the. There's like a blob of something here, which means I think the highlighter probably goes down to like there, and then this is an end bit to hold it in place. The dark splodge there, and then this is just vacant space where nothing's happening. So it's probably like regular highlighter length, which is a bit of a cheap way of doing it. And like the tip isn't maybe 1.5 times the size of a standard highlighter, like not even twice the size, but it's just in a big casing, so it looks like a big fucking highlighter when actually it's like buying a packet of crisps, isn't it? And it's fucking 3/4 empty. Oh, but they need the air in there. Shut up! They need the air. They need my fist in their cock, in the end of their cock. They need me to fucking sound their cock open with my fist. I've been looking for an excuse to use this lovely burgundy pen. Maroon, marron, granate. So that's cool too. Oh, what a lovely colour. It's somewhat reminiscent of the old cash register ink purple that I used to use, that I've spoken about in terms of like graffiti artists used to use it for their homemade markers. Like the deep, rich purple. I used to have a big bottle of it, which was obviously, it was like an industrial bottle used for like refilling, I don't know, cash register till ink, for the old receipts when they used to use purple ink on receipts like that. It was so good, and because it was a really like, it sounds silly, but a really wet ink. It was a very watery ink, so it dripped a lot. So I put it in like a homemade mop. I have this mop here. This might have dried out. Still got shit inside of it. Yeah, it's mostly dry. But that's a bit of sponge that sits in here, and then this bottle's just full of ink, and then you like swoosh it out and you tag with it. But I found in a store that sold like jigsaw puzzles and stuff. I think it was WH Smith, so they had like books and stationery, and they also had a section for jigsaw puzzles. What they also had was something very, very similar to this, but it was a bottle of kind of like glue/varnish, which it was made so once you finish a jigsaw puzzle, you like squeeze it and smudge it out over the jigsaw puzzle, and then it sort of seals the puzzle as a picture. So you can still see that it's a jigsaw puzzle, but it keeps it all in place so the pieces don't fall out, and then I guess you could frame it or whatever, which is quite a cool thing. But I looked at that, and it had a big fucking mop on it. So I stole a couple of them, of course, take the mop off, take out the little plastic bit, empty out the shit, because I don't need all that fucking gluey varnish shit, and then wash it out, fill the bottle with paint, ink, fucking whatever, put the thing back on, wedge the sponge back in, and then you got yourself a little mop. Look, has this got purple ink in it? Shit, my entire penis. No, I'm not sure it has. It might be. Oh, it has! Ah! It looks corroded, or like, oh no, it might be. It might have some like black stuff in it, and it used to have the purple ink in it, but the sponge is fucked. That's not keeping its shape at all. This is years and years, maybe decades old at this point. But that purple ink was particularly runny, and so if you catch a tag with it and press a little bit harder in certain places, and you get long drips. Like if I did a tag that was like, I'll use my safe for work tag, which was Ned's. If I could squeeze here, and then it gets like a long drip down here, maybe a couple of other drips here and here. Which drips in graffiti is like good and bad, depending on how they're done. Because I think you can sort of tell when drips are meant to be there and when they're not. Like if you do drips on purpose for something like that, like just one nice tag, a nice Ned's tag with one single drip that goes all the way down the wall and then pulls like at the bottom a little bit. Like that's quite cool, quite nice. Or if you're using crink, which is just the drippiest shit known to man, where you do a tag and then it's just drips from everywhere. So it's almost illegible because it's made up entirely of drips. That's quite cool too. If you do that over a doorway, like if there's an arched doorway and you catch a tag and then it just drips down, that can look quite cool. But if you're painting a piece, for instance, and you're doing an outline of a letter and there's just like a drip in there where like there's a corner where you've held the can just for just a fraction too long and it's just got a little drip. If those are visible, that's bad. You need to fucking sort your shit out. That's a sign of like lack of control. These are controlled, purposeful drips, and they're like in tags they're usually fine. But if you've got drips in your piece, that's a sign that you need to buck up your ideas, sonny. You need to sort your shit out and get better at doing whatever shit it is you're trying to do. The history of graffiti, brought to you by Schmuan. Muan! Muan! Because of there's all cows. This horn's going the wrong way. Moo. Would it be Muan? Or would it be like Mewan? But that looks like it says Mewan, like Mew, the Pokemon, doesn't it? Rather than Muan. Muan. Like I say, sometimes I write shit down. And I'm like, because the major tour, minor tour joke, I didn't write down, but I had in my head already. I was like, oh, I'll say that. That'll be really fucking funny. That'll be hilarious. A great way to start an episode. The Muan thing, I came up with that literally, I literally came up with that just now, literally right now. I just came up with that just now, literally right now. And look now, my cool Minotaur drawings covered in graffiti. Oh no, I've ruined it. These bloody scribbles, these bloody tags, bloody ruins. What was some other tags I had? Because Ned's was quite a cool one. Because Neds are what Scottish people call chavs, if you know what chavs are. Little ruffians, scummy little ruffians running about going, fuck your mum, mate, fuck you. I'll fucking have you, mate. Come here, mate. I'll fucking knife you. I'll stab you up, mate. You fucking what? These are chavs, but if you're in Scotland, they're called wee Neds. Fucking wee little Neds getting running about the place. Fuck them. Fuck our little Neds. Fucking little. I believe it stands for non-educated delinquents, which is quite funny. And, you know, I have Scottish heritage. It's a fun little word, so I used that as my tag for quite a while. But usually it was my legal tag, as opposed to an illegal tag. You get the N-E-D-S. Nerds, like star, halo, some accents and shit. That was a good tag. I had some good pieces come out of that. I wrote knock for a while. Jesus, I was wondering what the fuck all this shit was. I was like, where did those drawings come from? I wrote knock for a while. That was quite a good one. And then, so I'd often do the O as just like a big thing. It could be like literally just a big O, or I could turn it into a big face. Or I did this sort of, not a collab, but me and my pal Harvey were out painting one night. How did I do the K? Oh, the K would be like that. Harvey really wanted to paint like a planet, like a Jupiter-looking planet with all swooshy lines and shit in it. So he did that, and then I painted an N on one side and a K on the other. So it was like a big knock piece, and in the middle was a planet. That's quite cool. That's the main reason I wrote knock at all, was basically just because I liked this idea of like shape here, and then big thing here, and then shape here. Knock. Yeah, it's quite funny, isn't it? I like that. I can't remember if I had any specific tag for knock. That might have been it. You put the bit on the K like that. Knock. Quite like that. Isn't graffiti fun? Isn't this fun and exciting to do? Oh. Of course, what we need to do, can't have a piece without filling. And Harvey always liked doing like crisp, clean fillings, but I always liked doing like dusty, jagged fillings that looked like they've been done in 4 seconds. Like that, where you have gaps. Because it's texture! It gives it fucking texture. What I've said about other things is like, if you do your especially if you do a throw up or a dub, like 2 colour, like chrome and black throw up on a brick wall or something, if you do it too crisp and clean, it looks like a sticker has just been put onto the wall, like a poster, which you can do, and it's not necessarily the worst thing. But personally, I like it much better when it's dusty and there's gaps and stuff. That's what's up. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's the correct way to do the shit. There's a few things I need to make plans for. So at the top of my Instagram page, for the last, I guess, few years, I've had a few pinned posts. One for commissions, a very very pink. So the top 3 posts in my Instagram page are always these bright pink things. One of the posts talking about commissions, and then you swipe through and there's information about getting in touch for commissions and prices and whatever, some examples. Another one for Patreon, to let people know I have a Patreon. You can support me on Patreon. You swipe through and there's information about what's there. And YouTube is the third one. Letting people know I have a YouTube channel. I upload videos, and like the one you're watching now. That was a bit weird, wasn't it? Jesus, fucking go away. So I've redone recently, because it was time to update them. I'd had them there for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years ish. I don't know. And it's just time to update them. So I updated the commissions one, and a little while later I updated the Patreon one, and now it's time to think about updating the YouTube one. My previous image, I would have put them up on screen if I remember, or I might not, because I might have deleted the images a long time ago because I don't fucking care. But it was, I think I came up with the YouTube one in a podcast episode, where it was the one I had for a while was like me, I guess, holding up like a frame that was made up to look like a YouTube video thing screen, and then it was me, and then my penis was here coming through the thing. And that's bright pink, and it's YouTube, and it was all fun and funny. But I want something new. They're still largely pink, but it's also like purple and black ballpoint pens and stuff. So it's got a bit more texture to it, a bit more colour, a bit more light. An idea I have is to have like a YouTube video player screen again, but this time maybe me crawling out of it like in The Ring. My neck is here, my shoulders are here. And then like that. Big scary face. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Or maybe it's a really shitty. Oh, I can use this pen again. Why not? Why bloody not? Big scary eye. Make that all like bloodshot. Nose. Other eye, but less so. Teeth biting into my bottom lip. I say me, it's like a... I don't even know if I want to give myself a beard. Because there's something I really sort of dislike about artists constantly drawing pictures of themselves. Like if they have a comic and it's them in the comic, and then they always draw like this cartoonish rendition of themselves. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just whenever I see it, it's always like, ugh. Because there's sort of several kind of, I don't know, varieties that they fall into. One obvious variety is like drawing themselves, but slimmer than they actually are, bigger and musclier than they actually are, a more chiseled jaw. Another one is like the logos you see that are basically this. Like that as a logo for Beard Guy videos. The guy with the glasses, that He's not really, well, he's a bit of a cunt. He's a boring, uninteresting cunt. But there's so many like that, and I think because I have a beard, I'm in danger of falling into this of like, draw me that guy with the beard. Oh, he's bald and he's got a beard. He's bald and he's got a beard. He's bold, he's bold, he's bold, he's bold, he's bold and he's got a beard. Boo. But then, you know, that's just what I look like, so why wouldn't I draw that? It's just me having a little bitchy moan at just like, why do people do things ever? Why does anyone ever do anything? I think it's just because you see enough of those and they all start to look the same, and then you just think, why is everyone doing the same shit as everyone else? Like, so if I am going to draw myself, I sort of feel like I should try to draw myself in a different way, if it's even possible to do so. And maybe that way is to, rather than draw myself that doesn't look like myself. That's why I like my pink man. My pink man, because he can basically be me. He can be a vessel through which I draw myself without strictly drawing myself. Because there has been one or two people have mentioned the fact that, like, I've got a very small nose, and so when I draw myself with this weird sticky out nose, it doesn't look like an accurate depiction of me. And I tell them, shut the fuck up! Don't you dare criticise me and my art unwarrantedly. If I haven't asked for your input, it's because I don't want your fucking input, you cunt. TV. That's I should rename my channel to Cunt TV. Do you think they'd allow that? Do you think YouTube would allow me to name my channel Cunt TV? Probably not. Maybe I should name it My Heart Goes Out to You .tv or some shit, and they'd allow that, because that's fucking... look, it's like The Ring, but it's like... Oh, and then I'll say, like, I am on YouTube. But this isn't that great, so I need to work on it a bit, I guess. Fucking Jesus Christ. Have you seen those memes that are like a picture of a bed and it says like her side and plushies and cushions and blankets and the dogs and the cats, and then my side or his side or whatever, and it's this little sliver of bed, and it's like their side of the bed and my side. I need to make one like that of my desk, where it's like my desk, shit, a fucking bunch of other shit, laptop, pens, fuck, dildos, ass, used panties, and then space I allow myself to have to draw and create in, and it's this little fucking tiny little... My desk itself is pretty big, like almost remarkably big. The few times I've had to take everything off my desk for various reasons, I've always stood back and been like, that's a big fucking desk. There's quite a lot of space on this desk. And I allow myself barely an A3 piece of paper's worth of space to draw on. Not even my full cutting mat. Like, there's fucking this much. About 5 inches. An entire half of my penis length's worth. Get it? Of space. Of this cutting mat that I just don't have because of fucking shit. And like, I might use these pens now and then, and then I just go, oh, I'm done with that, and then it just sits there taking up space. But then if I put it away, like under here, there's like a bag of markers and there's a pot full of stuff here, I could put it somewhere, but then when I need it next, I'll be like, oh, where the fuck is it? I don't, and I have to fucking go and search for it. I have pots of things, piles. I really ought to fucking I mean, I was going to say I'm not necessarily ought to make a video cleaning up and making better use of the space on my desk. But if I think of it in those terms, if I think let's turn this into content, then at the very least that might give me a reason or an excuse to do something about it, because I really ought to do something about it. Anyway, full disclosure, again, as always, we stay as honest as honestable. I'm recording this ahead of time because, as of recording, next week I'll be at Sam's house, largely for business reasons, because we're going to be putting together Violence Skateboard's first line of merchandise of decks and t-shirts, of which we've already had a good few pre-orders, so that's cool. Hit me up on Instagram for information and the link to pre-order if you want to pre-order with no other information other than that. If you just want to own some exclusive fucking cool violence merchandise, a t-shirt with the word violence on it, that's cool. Buy one, get in touch. And so I'm trying to just knock out this podcast quickly just so I can upload it while I'm at Sam's, and because it just needs to be a nice easy podcast, piddling about in my sketchbook and whatnot, and we're just gonna look at Judgment on Gotham, just because also I am working on Gun Viking, and so it's good to, as mentioned last episode, it's good to soak up that painted comicsness that I adore so much, which is often Simon Bisley. Because, and I was thinking about this, I have spoken about this before, but it's a way to fill time is to talk about it again. That Simon Bisley is an obvious one to look at for one of my influences, to the point where if I'm at a Comic-Con or something, some kind of convention selling my wares, and on the table I have Gun Viking and maybe a couple of pages open showing what Gun Viking is and what it gets up to. There have been multiple times where people will walk up and look at it and go, "Oh, Bisley," and it's like, well, yeah, basically, sure. Even though in my head, in my heart, in my ball bag, on the pyramid of my influences, Bisley is basically at the top, but just above Bisley is Glenn Fabry. For one thing, a lot less people know of Glenn Fabry or know his work. I feel that's the case. And also, Glenn Fabry tends to be certainly a lot more realistic anatomically, and in terms of how he paints, he tends to paint a little bit more sort of somewhat photorealistically, not incredibly, but a bit more so than Simon Bisley. Whereas Simon Bisley's art is a lot more cartoonish, almost a lot more dynamic and exaggerated, and as such is a lot easier to copy, basically. Whereas Glenn Fabry, if you're going to copy a Glenn Fabry piece, you've got to pay real attention to anatomy and creases in the skin and different tones of skin and this and that. Very realistic proportions of bodies and such. Whereas Simon Bisley, it's weird fucking long shapes and broad shoulders and crazy lines and whatever, and anatomy can, not always, but can chop and change from panel to panel. You get elements like this which are at least somewhat close to realistic, while still being cartoonish and comic booky. But if this was a Glenn Fabry one, it would be a lot more anatomically correct. So Simon Bisley's art is a lot easier to sort of grapple with, and is therefore a bit of an easier one to imitate and make my own. Also, he does a lot more of this where you can see the underpainting and you can see the sketches behind the painting. Glenn Fabry does that sometimes, but more often Glenn Fabry's work is like fully painted, whereas Simon Bisley, in a lot of his finished work, you can see the layers, you can see how the painting is made by looking at the painting. And so it's easier to understand how it's painted looking at Simon Bisley's work than it is Glenn Fabry's work, if that makes sense. So I look at Glenn Fabry's work and I go, this is incredible. All the paintings for the Preacher covers, fucking outstanding, incredible work, phenomenal pieces of artwork, phenomenal anatomy and structure and compositions and colours and technique. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I try and imitate it, but it's the same thing of like if you try to draw anything realistically and you fuck it up, it looks fucked up. But if you try and draw something dynamic and weird and cartoonish and you fuck it up, it's still going to look dynamic and weird and cartoonish. People won't necessarily be able to tell that it's fucked up because it's been fucked up from the beginning. So yeah, so looking at Bisley's work, phenomenal dynamism, action, crazy anatomy, colours, technique, different materials he uses. There's so much that goes into it, but because of its fuck-uppedness, it's a lot easier to sort of take and make your own, or just copy if that's what you're doing, because fuck it. There's so many parts, like even just down to the texture here, where it's relatively easy to do. It's just sort of some blobs of paint and some different highlights and different colours, because you can see it's grey, but there's like the brown undertones. There's a grey highlight and then there's some blue here. He's left gaps and then he's highlighted just the bottom of those gaps to make them look like physical holes in the metal of his helmet. And then the brown is a bit more brown here, which looks like kind of rust in the helmet, but then it also blends into the sort of brown of the skin, or whatever the fuck that is. It's like such a small segment of the entire thing, but it's good. It's very, very good. Such a shame that they just typically don't make comics like this anymore. They just don't allow it. It's all, again, there are hand painted comics out there. The most readily available that springs to mind is Thistlebone by Simon Davis. But yeah, it's just, even that it's its own thing really, but for them to be on this kind of level, it just doesn't happen. That's why they need to hire me to paint more comics, so I copy Bisley. I do try to make my work my own, but it's hard to avoid the influences, isn't it? Plus, even if I'm making my own comic, if I'm painting it in a way that I've learned from, this. But that's always, if anyone who apprenticed under a great artist, their work is going to look like that great artist, because that's how they learned to paint. I have seen examples that absolutely disprove that rule, but shush, we're going to talk about that. I like this, and I like that this is a well-regarded, fantastic comic. Judgment on Gotham, like the Bisley Batman Dread crossover comic, is like, it's a known thing and for being fucking fantastic. And this is one of the panels in it where these aren't detailed humans. they're just little people-shaped objects in this little pencil drawing with some red spray paint and a bit of white to highlight a few parts. That's a panel that looks like a page in a sketchbook that would be a thumbnail to use to make a bigger piece of something else later on. But that's a panel in a full comic, and I think that's fucking great. I love that. I really, really, really do. Because that's just part of the charm of Bisley's work overall, isn't it? It's just fucking good, this what it has. I mean, I will give one criticism. I assume the rrrr noise here is because the Batmobile is supposed to be driving forwards, but it looks very static. Maybe something could be done to give the impression of a movement. I don't know. See, because it's rrrr and then rrrr, so I assume they're driving. It doesn't look like they're driving, so... Here's a bit better, because you've got like the swooshy lights and stuff moving past them. But, you know, fucking whatevs. I really like that it's not all painted the same way all the way through, because it would still be good if it was painted like this kind of rendering all the way through. But you have, again, more sketch panels here, more sketch panels here, panels with quicker painting and less detail, panels with more rendered texture and detail going on, more colours under the eyes and stuff, more sketch panels. It keeps it looking interesting all the way through. It's just almost impossible to get bored looking at this, which is obviously why I'm able to look at it 800 times during different episodes of the podcast, because it's just that good. It's just that non-boring. There's just so much to look at. Oh. Ain't that just fucking good? Oh, I forgot that page was in here. I just saw that and was like, oh shit! Oh, that's fucking classic page. I might get a colour photocopy of that. The printing place I go to get all my stuff done. Can I just get one colour photocopy of this page and then put it on my wall? Because it's just such an iconic image. And such a good painting, such a good comic book page that you can, flip through a comic and turn to a page where that's in it. It's just like, like if that was in any other comic and it was drawn regularly, black ink, digital colour, it would be like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But it has that hand-paintedness to it, that texture and that life. That really does give it something else. It's just, Speaking of, like, minotaurs and shit, I meant to say previously, but I'll say... So, Gun Viking versus the Minotaur. I've got ideas. If you're previously unaware, this year marks the 10th anniversary of Gun Viking, which is, cool. And as part celebration of that, I'm going to put together a short 8-page one-shot comic. I'll slap a cover on it and make it a little thing and present it and put it out there of Gun Viking versus the Minotaur, just for fun, just to be like, hey, isn't Gun Viking cool? What if he fought a Minotaur? And that'll be the fucking thing. The thing, that'll be the thing. So I had an idea earlier today, in fact, as I was out and about in town running errands and such. Possibly making it... It's going to be 8 pages just because of printing and how numbers work with printing and stuff. It would just be easiest to do 8 pages. I might be able to push it to 10 because it's the 10-year anniversary, but then it's like then I've got to fill in gaps with a couple of extra pages plus the covers, and it's but the fuck am I talking about? I was thinking of doing each page one individual splash panel, so one single panel painting page per panel for the page, one single panel per page of the Minotaur Gun Viking comic. One of the main reasons I thought about this, for one thing, it could be quite cool for one thing, to tell a story in 8 single images is a challenge and could be quite cool to look at to see if it develops from beginning to end through 8 individual images that together tell a full story. But also, so I was in a stationery store buying envelopes and shit, and I saw this. It's just a box, obviously, but it's like quite a thin box. And I do love a good box. I love a nice proportioned sized bit of card. I like a nice proportioned sized box. And this is quite a good size and proportion of box. Now, literally upon seeing this box, I instantly formulated the idea that it would be cool to do something with a box like this for the Gun Viking thing. And then I thought, if I do the 8-page Gun Viking versus a Minotaur comic as 8 individual or 8 single panel pages, and then I could release a series of like deluxe prints, a box of 8 prints on decent like quality thick sort of card paper stock, 8 prints of each of the pages that you can buy as a collection, and they'd be in a nice box, and I'll put some wrap them in tissue paper, put some bubble wrap around them, and then this is the page. I'll get onto that in a second. And they'll be about that size. Nice, decent quality images of the Gun Viking versus the Minotaur, and I'd put maybe get a sticker made up for each box to put on the front. Gun Viking 10-year anniversary, something, or maybe a stencil I could spray just like a Gun Viking 10, like a Gun Viking with a big X, like the Roman numeral for 10, Gun Viking X stencil or something. I don't know. I liked the idea of doing something special in a nice box, and so I formulated that idea around that, which I might do, I might not do. I'm still sort of formulating the ideas and such. But it could be quite cool. I figured in terms of selling it, like £99, which on one hand seems like quite a lot of money, like basically £100 for this little set of prints. But at the same time, I think that works out as roughly £12 per print. And you're buying 8 art prints for £12 each. That's dirt cheap as far as art prints go. Even like £15 to £20 is what I typically would sell them at. That's cheap. So for each print to be £12, and then you're paying £99 for this set, which you frame them up all in one frame or in 8 individual frames, and you can have what is basically the comic, but like across your wall or something. That's quite a cool thing, isn't it? Each one like numbered and signed and whatever. And then if we're talking about things, so the ideas I've had so far are like the first page could be like looking at Gun Viking, looking a bit suspicious, maybe looking around a corner of a labyrinth or something, and then behind him in the shadows, like the outline of a bull's head with its eyes glowing or whatever. And then the next page, a fight. The Minotaur has attacked and they're grappling. Maybe Gun Viking's dropped his gun and the Minotaur's got a weapon to his head or something. And then for the next couple of pages, or the next few pages, I could be like Gun Viking hitting the Minotaur, then the next page Minotaur hitting the Gun Viking, then vice versa, until the end. I'm still debating on the end. I might do like a comical, the last panel is them both sitting down, worn out, bloody and bruised, all bandaged up, just sharing a drink or something. And then a secret page after that where Gun Viking's just blowing the Minotaur's head off. They chilled out. They realised they're basically equal in terms of opponents. So they figured out, let's say fuck it and let's just sit down and have a drink because we're both tired, we're both worn out. And then Gun Viking takes that opportunity to just pull out a gun and blow his head clear off of his body. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? So, you know, I've got ideas. I'm working on them. What I think I might aim to do is get through the next issue of Gun Viking, issue 7, which has started, and I have completed the very first page, which I was working on before, and that's it. A little squirrel there, and the trees looking nice with the foliage that I was talking about adding in there. And the tree I like the depth of field almost. I'm something I sort of am somewhat getting the hang of, where like the trees up close are darker, and then the ones in the back are a bit more faded into the. Yeah, you get it. I need a few action lines here and maybe some stuff here, but yeah, you know, that's page 1 of the next issue. I've only just fucking finished issue 6, which is available now at ewan.com. Go to the store and buy Gun Viking issue 6. I've got a bunch of them bagged and boarded, all nice and protected and shit, ready to ship out. I've wrapped up a bunch of them. I'm shipping them out tomorrow. And now it's on to issue 7. So I've got the first page done. I've got the outline of the entire issue ready. I just need to draw and paint them in between commissions and stuff. So I figure, get issue 7 done and then work on the Gun Viking versus the Minotaur, 8 pages. I could potentially get that done in a week, depending on factors. We'll see how it goes. If I can find a week to spend solidly working on that, I absolutely will, because that would be really, really cool and fun to do. And then get that out, and hopefully still this year get issue 8 done and out, and that will be all of Gun Viking basically this year, on the year of its 10th anniversary, which would be really fucking cool. Wouldn't that be really fucking cool? So that's ideas and that's aims. I've probably spoken about a bunch of those already, but you know, it's stuff in my head, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the fun things in my head. One of the next commissions I'm going to be working on is quite a fun one, a sketch card like this guy here, of a goblin. But so what the person has asked for is a goblin, but they want the goblin to be venomized. Which, I mean, that's quite a cool idea in itself, but I think like the whole venomized thing has very recently come about as a thing that is out there. All kinds of different heroes getting venomized and whatnot. And so I think that could be a really cool piece. So I'm just trying to get an idea of. I did think of, like, in one way, drawing the goblin like venomized in its head, and then have the symbiote sort of like only on part of its body, so you have some of the green skin showing through, and then some of it's all black and goopy and whatnot. But at the same time, like, even this is too big, because the actual drawing has got to be the size of a sketch card. So, you know, if I put like the goblin like that, maybe I can make it, if I tilt it down a bit. Just some black goop and stuff, maybe. I can only fit so much into a sketch card, basically. Where's he gone? There he is. Mr. Maroon. But I really like the idea, and it will be painted, so it will, you know, have like cool colour and texture to it, hopefully, as long as I do it well, which, you know, I will obviously try to. But I quite like that idea, a venomised goblin. What's worse, what's nastier and more vicious than a goblin? A fucking venomised goblin with big gnarly venom teeth. And its tongue, big long venom tongue coming out. Which, you know, is fairly goblin-like anyway, so the only real difference is going to be like the colour. It's just going to be like mostly black as opposed to the standard green. That's quite cool already, isn't it? I don't know why I'm making it all red, but I just like this this pen, this colour. It's pretty. It's very pretty as colours go, isn't it? Does black have any effect? The one thing I will have to do is, because I've tried sort of drawing and painting Venom a few times in the past, especially with regards to painting him, it can be quite a challenge because, like, similar to when you're painting red, you can, with highlighting, you can either go pink or you can go orange, and the entire piece can look really different depending on which direction you take it. And with highlighting black in general, but, you know, in this case with Venom, you can either go typically grey or blue with highlighting it. And each one, again, can have quite different effects on how the piece looks. And then, of course, it's like you don't want to highlight it too much because, you know, in the comics, there's been times where Venom is mostly blue and it looks good enough. It looks like Venom. But I think, especially in later years, Venom's sort of... he should be mostly black to be like real Venom. So I don't want to highlight it too much to make it too blue or too grey, depending on, you know, which way I go. So I'll need to do at least a little bit of like research, maybe some colour tests. Maybe I'll just draw and paint a picture of Venom. I could have done that right now, couldn't I? I could have done that as a podcast thing, but fuck it, do it another time. Yeah, a little test image of Venom, just for, well, I was going to say just for fun, but also as a studying, a tool for studying Venom and his anatomy and colours and such, and then just apply that to a little goblin body, and then you've got fucking venomized goblin. I want his mouth going up here as well, just because that would look kind of neat. That's basically going to be it, but then like on a tiny little piece of card. The eyes need some. This is all from memory, so if I look at a picture of Venom's eyes, I'm sure I'll realise that mine looks silly and not Venom-like at all, but that's just how it goes, isn't it? Tongue. I guess I could move it down a bit, but I do. Part of me wants to put in like a hand doing like this. Well, that could work actually. I was just about to say I don't know if that will work, if that will look any good, but even just, you know, this is a doodle. It's not going to be as good as the final fucking thing. But that could work. And then some like gloopy symbiote mess. Whatever. That could be quite a cool card, couldn't it? Painted nice with a nice what do we reckon? A colour for the background. Maybe turquoise or green is a bit much. Red, purple could work. If I do use blue for the highlight in the body, then a purple background, like a fairly tame purple could work. Maybe a maroon, this kind of maroon colour for the back. That could actually look quite cool if this is all black. Really neatly done. And then in the background, it's all this. That actually could work really, really well. What a happy little accident that was. And potentially, it'll be a really quick one to paint. Because it's just a little card and there's not too much going on, not too many colours. I could do that now. I was going to say I could turn off the podcast and paint that right now. I could leave the podcast going and paint that right now. But I probably won't because, well, I need to eat, for one thing. I'm hungry and it's getting towards dinner time. So I'll eat and then I'll figure something out. The end. Fuck it.